Mr Speaker. My question is to the Treasurer. On Neil Mitchell's program last year, the Treasurer described leadership rumblings as, and I quote, a bit of political bedwetting by some. A source in today's Financial Review on the front page describes coalition MPs who oppose a rise in the GST as bedwetters. Treasurer, is this a coincidence? And when will the Treasurer finally come clean with the Australian people and his own colleagues about his plan to increase the price of everything with a 15% GST?
Just before I call the Treasurer, the first part of the question I don't believe is within the standing orders. The very last part of the question relating to tax is the Treasurer can address himself to the issue of tax.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr Speaker. I thank the member for the question. I thought the Shadow Treasurer might want to ask me something about the economy, the transition that's taking place, the issues that are happening in global markets, something like that, but he wants to focus on trivia.
Member for
but
Isaacs,
I'll give him some advice, Mr Speaker. I'll give him some advice in relation to the last part of the question. And I'll quote someone else who was on radio today, Mr Speaker, in fact the former Prime Minister and Treasurer Paul Keating, who was talking to Alan Jones this morning. And here's a bit of advice. He said this. He said, when Commonwealth revenue has been so affected, this is what he says, Paul Keating to Alan Jones, the penny ought to drop that what we should be doing is cutting spending. And that's what the Treasurer, he was referring to myself, that's what the Treasurer, Paul Keating, has said for some weeks now, and on this point he is actually right. So, Mr Speaker, what we are trying to do on this side of the House—
for Sydney.
What we are doing on this side of the House is we are reducing government spending as a share of the economy from 25.9%, Mr Speaker, down to 25.3%. Now, if we'd done nothing over the last several years, Mr Speaker, it would have hit 26.5% of GDP under the high-spending, high-taxing policies of those who previously occupied these benches. But on this side of the House, Mr Speaker, we are absolutely committed to getting the fiscal consolidation plans being implemented, because at times like this, when we know of the volatility that's occurring globally, and when we have Australians looking at what could be happening to their savings and their investments and all of these things, they will look at these things with some uncertainty. And that's why the government has to focus on strengthening our financial position, not engaging in the reckless tax and spend approach which left this government with the reckless fiscal position which those opposite bequeathed to us, Mr Speaker. So, as a government, we are focused on the task of strengthening our budget, strengthening our finances, and the former Treasurer Paul Keating says we've got that right.